We'll call this meeting to order. This is the November 5th meeting of Owen Sound City Council. I welcome the folks that are here in the public gallery this evening and those that are watching on the live stream on Rogers television. We've just finished the in-camera portion of our meeting and are now embarking on our public agenda. We do have a visitor here this evening. There he is right there. Reverend Graham Bland of St. George's Anglican Church is here this evening to bring a blessing to council. And I just invite you up to the podium, Reverend Bland.
In his 1952 book, The Irony of American History, Wendell Niebuhr, who's a modern American prophet, wrote some words which still seem to speak to our situation here and south of the border tonight. Nothing that is worth doing can be achieved in our lifetime. Therefore, we must be saved by hope. Nothing which is true or beautiful or good makes complete sense in the immediate context of history. Therefore, we must be saved by faith. Nothing we do, however virtuous, can be accomplished alone. Therefore, we must be saved by love. So may we find character and endurance and patience to enable us to live hopefully and realistically. May we discover strength to live by faith, to accept what does not make sense in this moment, and to remain open to the promise of what may emerge from our confusion. And may we take courage so to collaborate with one another that our actions are guided by love. And may peace be to this house. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any additional items for tonight's agenda? Any members of council?
Yes, I would like to talk about the Sydenham River cleanup and the Friends of Harrison Park.
Thank you. Any other members of council? Members of staff? Madam Clerk.
Two additional items.
One is an additional bylaw, number 2012-197, which is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement between the corporation of the City of Owen Sound and the Bluewater District School Board accepting a license for the use of the a Hockey Canada Skills Academy for Owen Sound Collegiate and Vocational. Second item is an additional item of correspondence for consideration by council. It's from the Festival of Northern Lights respecting the opening night fireworks display.
Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest?
Thank you, Worship. I disclose a pecuniary interest on a matter on the in-camera agenda.
Thank you. That's noted. I also will be declaring a pecuniary interest with regards to item 12B, as this is my residence. Can I have confirmation of the minutes, please, from October 29th?
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Adair, that the minutes of the regular meeting of City Council held October 29th, 2012, as printed, be adopted.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. A resolution moving council and committee of the whole, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Adair. The City Council now go into committee of the whole to consider public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business.
All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Thanks very much. We now are in committee of the whole. We do have a public meeting, and we have comments to read in. The clerk has some comments on that stop up and close and surplus disposal of municipal property.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is
Consideration by council, as you've mentioned, for stopping up and closing, declaring surplus, and disposing of municipal property. It's property that forms part of a lane known as PL 184. It's located adjacent to 1259 2nd Avenue East rear. The purpose of the potential disposal is to facilitate residents in use of the property. We did put out a public notice of tonight's meeting in the Sun Times on October 23rd, and we sent letters to the adjacent homeowners. We have not received any comments to date on this matter. We did have one neighbor who called respecting their own property and a question about whether the city was able to sell something that was entitled to them, but nothing respecting this particular land sale. I will note that anybody that wishes to speak this evening will be providing their information for the record. It's collected under the authority of the Municipal Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, and it will be used to complete the disposal of surplus land process. As I mentioned, it will form part of the public record, and if there are any questions, they can be directed to me, the city clerk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will move along now to deputations. We have oh, is there anyone in the audience? That's terrible of me. We have so many people here in person, and it is behooved of me that I ask if anyone is here to speak to this matter. And again, is there anyone here to speak to the matter of surplus and disposal of municipal property, Lane, Part Lot 184? And a third time? I believe there's a young couple here that are arguing who's going to speak. I don't think that ever ends. If you could just say your names for the record. Thank you.
Thanks. My name is Candace Orby,
And Andrew Doherty.
and we are looking to purchase the lane.
Basically, we've lived there for over 5 years, and we've used it as our own. We used to park there, and recently we were told we weren't allowed, and we were just liking a parking spot.
And the reason we bought our property is the lawyer we had said we would have no problem parking there, whether we owned it or not, and said that in the future we would be able to purchase. And that's all he had said, and that's why we were purchasing.
Don't mention the lawyer's name, okay?
That's fine.
Thank you for addressing council, and it sounds like the clerk will be in touch with you in the next few days.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We would now move to the deputations portion, and I believe the clerk will let me do that now. Yes? Good. And I'll invite our Chief of Police and Bill Sornberger and Gary Levine, the Chair of the Owen Sound Police Services Board, to provide an update on police services and activities, and maybe we'll hear something about that budget savings too.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, city staff, guests, attendees. It's with great pleasure that I stand before you this evening, along with our Police Service Board Member Marion Kepke, and of course our Chief of Police, Bill Sornberger. Folks, this has been a great year for policing in Owen Sound. And our accomplishments are many, and we're justly proud of them. Members of our staff have received both national and international commendations. Our newly acquired bylaw enforcement officers are doing an extraordinary job, and they're providing a much-needed visible presence in the downtown core. Our dispatch service is growing by leaps and bounds and is helping us literally redefine how policing is administered and how policing is funded in this province. And let me say that the open lines of communication between our police services staff and City Hall staff have frankly never been better. Folks, there's been an awful lot of work done, and there's an awful lot more work to do. Now, council should know that you are well represented on our Police Services Board. Mayor Haswell, Vice Chair Councilor Adair are truly committed to making policing better in Owen Sound, and we're all the more valuable for it. City Representative Marion Kepke, she brings just a wealth of experience to our police services table. And her knowledge of the inner workings of City Hall, her knowledge of policy and procedures and bylaws, it's vast. Marion, Ms. Kepke, raises the bar for each and every one of us. Now, I said just a couple minutes ago that we're redefining policing in Ontario, and this is true. There's no way that we could play this leadership role without having exemplary leadership at the top. Folks, the care, the compassion, and the genuine love of policing overflows in abundance with Chief Sornberger. His humor, his good-natured, affable spirit, his love of the community help put a friendly face on policing in Owen Sound. While many of us pride ourselves as being ones who like to think outside the box, Chief Bill, he's long thrown that box away. He's asked himself and others, why do we need a box? Your Worship, members of council, I'm pleased to bring to the podium now a man that I have an enormous amount of respect for, who has done and continues to do marvelous things for policing in this town. Your Worship, members of council, Chief Bill Sornberger.
Thank you very much, Mr. Levine.
I wish I had an Academy Award.
Oh. I have nothing more to say. I'm done. No, thank you very much, Your Worship, members of council, for hearing us tonight, city staff, members in the audience. I am very proud to lead this police service, let you know a little bit about what's going on in the past, what's happened in the past year. As you're all aware, about a year ago we were standing at my swearing-in ceremony as the chief, so the board and myself thought it would be well served that every year we come and update you on what's been going on and give you that information up front, hopefully try and quell some rumors, discuss some issues, and answer some questions if you have any. Right now, the authorized strength of the Owen Sound Police Service is 41 sworn officers. We currently are at 39. We have a complement of 2 part-time officers, but we're authorized for 4. And we have a civilian staff of 23, and we're authorized for 24. Vehicles always seem to be an issue. The Police Services Board had foresight, and when they stopped manufacturing the Crown Victoria, they bought 4 of them out of the Police Board Reserve Fund and saved approximately $82,000 over 3 years in policing equipment. That in itself was major. That is the board having some vision. We have 1 sergeant's vehicle, 5 marked patrol vehicles, 2 unmarked detective office vehicles, a community service van, an identification van, and 2 2002 motorcycles. They are not brand new. We also we gave the bylaw department, when they came over to the city, a 4-year-old police vehicle. It is not brand new. I heard on this Facebook that apparently we had given them a brand new vehicle because we made all this money. It's 4 years old, and it was just worth our while to save it and give it to them. Our ongoing projects right now, one of the major ones that we have going is that soon you'll be able to report minor crime online. If you had a theft from your vehicle, you had some damage done, you don't know whether you should call the police, and you're wondering what you should do, you will be able to go online and report that crime. And it's anything under $5,000. If you lost property, you had a bike stolen off the front, you had your garbage bag tag stolen. Any of those things you can report online now. We have our community mobile safety village. There's only 2 in the entire province, 1 here in Owen Sound, 1 with the OPP in Aurelia. It has been out 4 times, or it's been out twice now to the schools. It's there for a week. It's going to be at every elementary school. And we've also had it out to various events through the summer, 4 events in helping bring the awareness to the community. We've been working with Crime Stoppers and MAD for signage in the city for both of those organizations. And we've received some grant money for an upcoming project to deal with teenage and young adult drinking and driving. And we'll be revealing that in the very near future. We also supported Victim Services in a conference, to operate a conference for community or for senior service regarding safety in their residences. Our crime trends right now in Owen Sound. In 2012, we had 302 violent crimes, and that would be assault with a weapon, and that kind of crime. We had 175 of those cleared by arrest or charges. We had a 94.7% clearance rate. The other ones were cleared either through diversion, the complainant no longer wished to go forward, or we had some resolution to the occurrence. Our property-related crime, we had 654 cases. This is as of to November the 1st. We had 654 cases of property theft. We've only cleared 141 of those, which is a 35% clearance rate. Just in Halloween, the weather this past week was definitely a benefit to us. We normally have a very busy night. We only had 10 calls for service that night, so that worked out for our benefit. Here's a subject you've not heard about for a while. Parking. We currently have 3 enforcement officers working in parking. The city originally in 2009 and 2010 also had 3 parking enforcement officers. The police service, while operating parking, over the same time frame as what the city had operated with the same amount of employees, has issued 1,923 less tickets than was issued in 2009 and 2010. That would mean that we have issued a total we have issued, the amount of tickets have put our revenue down by $24,000 in revenue from tickets. However, revenue from meters and parking lots has gone up by $16,000, so there's only about an $8,000 shortfall there, but everything is moving very positive. We've sold more parking permits, and there's more revenue from all of the meters, even though the meters aren't working properly. And on to my last dispatch. We have 16 new fire services signing on with the Owen Sound Police Service within the next 2 weeks. We are very busy over at the police station. I have several people hanging on by their fingernails right now. It brings in over $400,000 in revenue, the new business. We have taken $1,300,000 out of the police budget over the last 2.5 years. We have no longer rely on the city for any capital purchases. We raise that money through third-party criminal record checks, and that is our capital money. We also will be going live with live scan shortly, which will enable all of the people that require a fingerprint to get it done within 48 hours instead of 6 months. And all of the criminal record checks for all the volunteers, if you are a volunteer and live in the city of Owen Sound and are volunteering in Owen Sound, receive that criminal record check for free now. Our budget is tracking right now. We are going to arbitration for salaries. However, our budget right now on our fixed costs is 1.75% lower than last year, and that includes as I said, the capital reduction. We do not include money that we charge the Owen Sound Fire Department for dispatch as part of our budget reduction because the city still has to pay it, so that is not part of that 1.75 and has never been included in any part of a budget reduction. Everything else has been real money. And that, Your Worship, is the information from the Owen Sound Police Service.
Well, I can say thank you very, very much on behalf of council and behalf of the community. You certainly have shown tremendous leadership as chief in this past very short but very active year. And I know that just in terms of the transparency with council and the communication with council, between council and police services and yourself has been a tremendous improvement, and your style and your commitment to the community is very well received, and we appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much.
And we really like to see those budget reductions keep coming, and it's a great example for other departments in the city as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a number of, we have Catherine Keleher here from the, I think I saw Catherine. Yes, there you are. Thank you. Project coordinator from Victim Services of Bruce Gray and Owen Sound. And Catherine is here to address us about the Seniors Safety Program. So please welcome, and if you'd step up to the podium. And I think that's another important point to note, that the Victim Services has an office again at the police station here in Owen Sound, and that's something that we're quite pleased with the chief on as well. So, welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. To you and members of council, staff, and the gallery, thank you for the opportunity of making this presentation tonight. And as an aside to Chief Sornberger, we do partner with the Owen Sound Police Service, and we are very pleased about that. We like to think has been beneficial both to the police service and certainly to our service. So before I can talk about the Senior Safety Project, there are probably people who have never had occasion to have dealings with victim services, thankfully. And so I'll give an overview of what we do, the standard who, what, where, when, why, and then the details of our program. We are a community-based, not-for-profit charitable organization. We have a board of directors, small staff, and about 50 volunteer responders. We provide free, confidential, emotional support and practical assistance to victims of crime and tragic circumstance. Just as emergency services, being police, fire, ambulance, are the physical first response to a crime or a tragedy, so we are the emotional first responders. Some of the occurrences we respond to include partner abuse, property crimes, traffic collisions, fires, senior abuse, assault, sexual assault, sudden death, stalking, suicide, harassment, homicide, anything that is a crime or a tragedy. We provide a safe, secure, and completely confidential environment for people who find themselves in a situation where their normal coping skills are not enough. We let them talk freely about their responses and their reactions, and we help them to understand their crisis response, and we provide options for further support if it's required. We help victims decide what their most pressing needs are, and we try to provide information about services in our community that may be helpful in meeting those needs. Now, why do we do this? Well, it's been shown that people who receive immediate support after trauma make a much fuller, quicker recovery. We also feel that the utilization of our service allows police officers, firefighters, ambulance attendants to continue with their responsibilities, knowing that the victim's needs are being met. Where do we operate? We serve clients throughout all of Grey and Bruce counties and the city of Owen Sound. When? Our assistance is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And how do we do this? With the consent of the victim, and always with the consent of the victim, a team of volunteers may respond to a request for service either on scene or by telephone. On request, again, we will contact a victim in the days following the incident to make sure that all options were offered and to provide other referrals if they're necessary. Victims may also contact us directly through our crisis number. If anyone feels he or she has been victimized, it's a simple matter to pick up the phone 24/7 and make the call. Now, our Senior Safety Project. We've been fortunate to obtain from the federal government a grant under the New Horizons for Seniors program. Our grant covers the period April 2012 to April 2013. And our application for the grant arose from statistics that showed Grey Bruce has a higher than average proportion of seniors, and from our belief that seniors who've been victimized really would prefer or be more comfortable being served by other seniors. At the present, the terms of our grant limit this particular program to the city of Owen Sound. However, we hope once it's successful, we'll be able to expand to other areas in Grey Bruce. There are 3 components to our senior safety project. To better serve seniors in our community, to promote volunteerism among seniors. Now, I'm not really 100% sure. We put that in our application, but from what I've seen, seniors in our community probably are busier volunteering than other people, so I don't know that that means promotion. We want to enhance intergenerational communication. Our volunteers cover every walk of life, every age, both genders, and communication among that group is valuable for everybody. We want to recruit and train future seniors and to assist in developing a crisis response that's specific to senior victims of crime and tragedy. To the recruitment end, we circulated flyers to apartment buildings, service clubs, seniors organizations in the community. Unfortunately, we didn't have a lot of response. However, we're working on that too. The second component of the project is safety planning. We would like to raise awareness of abuse and the other crimes that seniors are victimized by, to promote an understanding of safety issues specific to seniors, and to develop safety plans specific to seniors. The third component is the one that we partnered with OSPS, CEPTED training. Now, CEPTED stands for Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. And during that training, we hope to be able to assist seniors who have been victimized to regain a sense of security in their homes and in their workplaces, and to assist other seniors who haven't thankfully been victimized to structure their environments in such a way as to reduce the likelihood that they will be victimized. Basic training of our staff and most of our volunteers has now been completed. And now, I don't know, I understand I have 10 minutes. Have I used it all up yet?
Oh, you're close, but...
Okay. As I said before, accessing our service is as easy as calling our crisis line anytime. It's a totally automated system. It asks callers to state their names, and I'm not really sure why it does that, because you can say Santa Claus, and the call gets transferred over to a real person. Well, the Easter Bunny. If I may, our crisis number is 1-866-376-9852. Just in case there's anybody who's hearing this who would like to use that number. Becoming a volunteer with us involves an interview, a screening process during which criminal records check and a Children's Aid Society check is done. We check references thoroughly, and it involves 40 hours of training as well as ongoing monthly meetings and training. We ask volunteers to commit to 12 hours of service a week for 1 year. However, we know that some people do go to Arizona for the winter, and life happens. And so as far as the 12-hour week commitment, we are flexible with that. So, having said that, I think that's everything, and again, I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Catherine, for coming this evening and telling us about the services that are available through Vail Services, as well as the call for more volunteers. And if I were to say the 1-866 number, is that the number for
volunteering? No, that's for crisis. I was trying to do it in order of importance. However, the volunteer number is 1-888-577-3111. Okay?
I wanted to make sure that you got that in, and I thank you so much for coming and sharing with us. Are there any questions from any member of council? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We now have three facade grant presentations, and we are beginning with the Central Westside United Church. And I'll come down to the podium, and perhaps the Chair of Planning and Heritage would like to assist me in this.
I was teasing my colleague Graham Bland, who got the privilege of offering a blessing to council. I said, well, Anglicans bless and get money. We just get money.
I know when to say nothing. Reverends David Shearman and Kathy Campbell are here with us this evening on behalf of Central Westside United Church, and also Councillor Bill Twaddle, as Chair of Planning and Heritage Advisory Committee, is here with me on behalf of the city. This church is located on 10th Street West between 3rd and 4th Avenue. This church is designated under the Ontario Heritage Act for architectural and historical reasons, and is also listed on the Owen Sound Register of Properties of Cultural Value or Interest. Tonight, the church is receiving a double facade grant to assist with the work carried out to repoint and repair brickwork and paint eaves, troughs, and windows as required. This church is a very beautiful building. Thank you for the work you have done on this heritage building. It really does look amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Thank you. Check.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I will now invite Reverend Bland, Noreen Little, Bill Saprell, Elaine Patton. Good evening. Good evening. It's great to see all of you here. Thank you. Reverend Bland, Noreen Little, Bill Saprell, and Elaine Patton are in attendance this evening on behalf of St. George's Church, which is located at the corner of 4th Avenue and 10th Street East, also known as Salvation Corners. The church is listed on the Owen Sound Register of Properties of Cultural Value or Interest. In 2010, St. George's Church received a facade grant for extensive work they did to repair the church steeple as well as repairs to the stonework. Tonight, the church is receiving a double facade grant to assist with another major project. This work includes new insulation and ventilation as well as a new roof with soffit and fascia. This roof is an interlock slate shingle product made of lightweight aluminum, which was selected to replicate the look of original shingles. I think this is another fantastic program, another fantastic project, and I congratulate you. And it's another example of how you can use new and modern materials on heritage buildings to keep that look and that feel. So congratulations on your creativity and your commitment. Thank you.
These people did all the work. I'm just
Congratulations. Congratulations. That's the one.
Thank you.
They're empty. This is how we don't want the council chamber at City Hall to be set up, because it's extremely awkward having my back to people. having my back to these people, it's okay, but not to you. David and Kathleen Morris, where are you? There you are. Own the building where Jasmine's and several other businesses are located. In 2010, Mr. Morris received a facade grant to help repoint and repair brickwork on the front of the building. Tonight, Mr. Morris is receiving a facade grant for new windows on the front and on the rear of the building. The windows look great. Congratulations to your commitment on preserving this building and your commitment to the downtown.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's really helped us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, those are the moments we cherish in these positions in the community. We are now at public question period, and I will ask if there are any members of the public here this evening who would like to ask a question of this council. If you do, please step forward and give your name and address for the clerk, please. Welcome.
My name is Edna Bury, and I live at 555 4th Avenue West here in Owen Sound. And I had a bit of an awakening on Saturday when I got my paper and saw the headlines, which caused me to have some concerns about what I read, and I would like to present my concerns to council. I understand you won't be able to give me an answer tonight, or at least I'll be happily surprised if you can, but I did want to make my concerns known. The headline that caught my attention is Genivar wants city to buy local. It seemed like a reasonable request, so I went ahead and read the article. The article stated that the firms were judged on their technical qualification and cost estimates to ensure a balance of engineering quality and price. Seems reasonable. There is a Consulting Engineers Association, which has a service to provide clients with a format for selection of appropriate firms. This method is known as qualification based on selection, or QBS. I don't know if that's the test that the city used. If it wasn't, I would be very interested in what it was. Was this the test you used? Your results were extremely close to non-existent. I feel your stated reason, equality, has left me with some questions. My second question is discrepancy in cost. Does the out-of-town bid include the costs of travel? A project of this magnitude would require an inspector on site almost full-time, as well as others who would have to travel to the site. Deficiencies would probably involve more travel, and I wonder if they would have the same urgency as a local firm would feel. This is the second time this year a local firm has been overlooked by our council. McLean Engineering, who recently established a factory here and employs over 200 people, lost a contract for street cleaners made and developed in Owen Sound to an out-of-town competitor. Does the city purchasing agreement take into account the taxes paid by local firms and their employees, the charities and community services provided by them, the money spent by their employees in our community, the thousands of hours of volunteer service provided by the employees and their family? But let's consider who these companies are. McLean is a world-renowned mining and machine manufacturer. Genron is an evolution over half a century of A.M. McKay to Henderson Patton, started by a group of Waterloo grads, leaders in engineering. These are the companies at the heart of our communities. I'll always be a newcomer to Owen Sound, but perhaps that gives me a better perspective of the past achievements of this city. You have an enviable record in so many areas. A world-class marine engineering facility, one of the country's largest printing facilities, and a small but mighty carton manufacturer. McLean Engineering, who recently established a factory, page 4. And it doesn't go on much longer, I promise. Owen Sound's contribution to the arts, the Tom Thompson Gallery, our symphony, and Little Theater, our blessed geography are all exceptional. The quality of education has developed world-famous grads. We are so fortunate. It begs the question, why would we look outside our own community for experts? They're one of our best exports. Please let's think beyond tests whose results are questionable to the welfare and quality of Owen Sound. That's what we expect from elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. You may want to stick around for the next correspondence item. Are there any other members of the public who would like to ask a question of this council? Any other members? Seeing none, we'll move along. We are at item 11A. We have correspondence from Genivar with regards to the selection of a consultant for the Owen Sound Wastewater Treatment Plant project. What is council's wish? Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move that we receive the correspondence from Genivar. I want to thank the people from Genivar for their letter, for their concern. Truly appreciate it. I think everybody on council has read it, and Ms. Brewery, I thank you for your comments as well. And I just want to explain the direction from council when this issue came forward was that staff negotiate with the consulting engineer partnership that scored the highest on the evaluation of the request for proposal. There is a significant difference in cost, and the direction to staff was to negotiate first with J.L. Richards Conestoga Rovers Association partnership because they were the group that scored the highest. Council has not made a decision on which engineering firm to select. But based on the process that was spelled out clearly and that all of the proponents were aware of, there was a process in place for evaluating the proposals and ultimately coming to a decision. That process is still going on. A meeting with J.L. Richards Conestoga Rovers has not yet taken place to negotiate. I think the committee that came forward with that recognition had a clear understanding that there was a significant difference in the cost, and we're very sensitive to that. But we also are very sensitive to a very specific process that was spelled out in a request for proposal and that all of the proponents were aware of going into it. So this process is moving forward. It's not by any means finished. My motion to receive the correspondence from Genivar should not be read or perceived as dismissing the correspondence from Genivar. There's a process going on. Genivar still remains in consideration, but based on the process that everyone understood going in, we first have negotiations with the partnership that received the highest ranking in the proposals. So it's not a done deal. Actually, the negotiations haven't taken place. We don't know whether they'll be successful. That remains to be seen. And so my motion to receive this really is to say that the process is ongoing. We appreciate the correspondence. We appreciate the comments. And, the process is not yet over.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the motion? Councillor Lemon.
Do we have any idea when those negotiations are going to start with them? I'm going to ask the engineer.
I understand the meeting has been scheduled for later this week. Councillor Lemon?
We're getting a nod from the Director of Operations.
Just to confirm, that is correct.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? Let's do that again. All those in favor? All those opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. There is no one more concerned about supporting local business than the person who's wearing this chain of office right now. And I can tell you that we've had many, many discussions around this very issue. At every opportunity, when a local business is pre-qualified and meets the standard to which our professional staff is instructing us that they have to meet, that local business has every opportunity to be awarded a contract, an RFP, a job, whatever it might be. At the end of the day, this particular project is requiring incredible technical expertise, which we have full confidence, as did Genivar mention in one of their pieces of correspondence, that any of the proponents who applied for this particular job would be able to do quite competently. There is a scorecard. I have asked the city manager that at some point in the future, we need to take a very hard look at our purchasing bylaw in the city, to the point that in other municipalities, there is a capacity to have a percentage that is applied to a local company at the onset of applying for any RFP or responding to any bid or tender. So that there's a built-in point system that is still clear and transparent, but it still provides a bit of a leg up to a local company. All members of council value local business, and all members of council certainly value the professional members of this community and of the particular companies that have been mentioned here this evening. So having said that, we'll move on, and we'll look forward to the Director of Operations report next week. Again, Councillor Twaddle did articulate it very clearly that this decision has not yet been made. Thank you very much for your comments tonight as well. We have a number of items on our consent agenda for this evening. What is council's direction? Councillor Lemon.
Move to approve the consent agenda, including the report on the skating program that's being developed through Bluewater Board.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? That motion's carried. Thank you. We have three reports, 12B1, 12B2, and 12B3. First report is a verbal update from Don May, who I see is waiting in the public gallery. Welcome.
Your Worship, members of council, I just wanted to put some context to the revised disposition of land bylaw before you tonight. This, of course, is pursuant to council's strategic direction to review the assets of the city with respect to surplus properties and foster economic benefit. There was a need to update the city's existing bylaw to provide council with more flexibility, which sometimes requires a more dynamic process in terms of property disposition, or even in the case of leasing and some of the more important assets where there may be properties that the city wishes to retain ownership, or you could have instances with heritage easements and other aspects. So having a bylaw that provides you with more flexibility is important. I think the essential components of public notice and transparency have been maintained in the bylaw, and it's a balance in terms of that. So as much as possible, notice is important, and also the transparency. So I think I support the bylaw and have worked with the two authors, and I just wanted to put context to that. So within this, and with what council would then have as its ability to do business in the future differently, this would be a step forward, and many municipalities are doing the very same thing. So thank you, and I'll just provide that context.
Thank you very much for the background. Questions for Mr. May from council? Councillor Adair.
Thank you, Mr. May. Certainly, there are many properties that the city no longer has a use for that we wish to dispose of. In your opinion, then, if we pass this bylaw tonight, we will be able to move forward much more quickly with disposing of properties that we've identified that we no longer need?
Yes, and also some flexibility with respect to putting out things such as a request for proposals. Recently, the Markdale Fire Hall was a creative option that was put forth by an adjoining municipality, and you can see its ability to have this flexibility.
Councillor McMenamin?
Your Worship, so we're moving on to the bylaw, B, 2B, 2B2?
Do you have any more a question?
Well, I had questions about the bylaw. I'm not sure if that's for Mr. May or for the clerk.
There's going to be a presentation.
I think we'll probably, we'll let the clerk present the bylaw as a report, and but in terms of anything that Mr. May has discussed here, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And we move along to 12B2, which is a report from the city clerk and the bylaw coordinator with regards to the revised disposition of land bylaw. You can walk through if you like, or Jeff. I'm not sure who wanted to do this, but I think council.
My intention was for the report to stand on its own, but I'm happy to walk through it. I did indicate with Mr. May that there are a number of things in the bylaw that come from his recommendations, and if there were questions about that, as well as myself.
Thank you.
So as the beginning of the report mentions, the Municipal Act has changed and has allowed basically municipalities to dictate their own policy for the disposal of land. They've shed all of the prescriptive requirements, basically indicate that you can pick whatever you want in your policy as long as you're prepared to adhere very closely to your policy at all times. So what we've tried to do, as Mr. May's indicated, is take his business perspective on how to get properties moving quickly and flexibly and with a minimum of quote-unquote red tape, and make sure that the issues around transparency and accountability that, when I'm wearing my clerk's hat, are my primary concern, are also in that bylaw. So instances where you look at an opportunity for you to choose a method that's not prescribed in the bylaw, that would come from Mr. May suggesting that there may need to be down the road a new option to consider moving land. As the clerk, I would say that if you were going to do that, you would need to do it by resolution before you embarked on that process, clearly indicating what the terms of that method was, so that the transparency and accountability for people that were going to be involved in the process around dealing with that piece of land in whatever manner you had prescribed would be clear to them. Likewise, Mr. May has indicated that there may be situations where an appraisal is not necessary. We've dealt with that in two ways. One, we've indicated that valuation can either mean a full-scale appraisal by a certified appraiser, which is costly and time-consuming, or it can be a letter of opinion, which we've left staff to determine in which circumstances, what threshold would meet a need for a higher appraisal or a letter of opinion. On top of that, we've also put a caveat in where if council found there was a situation where they did not believe evaluation was necessary, that they would be able to, by resolution, say that evaluation was not necessary. So again, Mr. May suggested not having evaluation. I've suggested if that happens, it needs to happen by resolution in an open session so that the public is aware. Beyond that, I can speak to specific elements of the bylaw if there are questions from council.
Thank you very much. Questions? Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Your Worship, and the clerk has touched on or answered maybe a couple. The first one is about that valuation. So just so I'm clear, I was taking this to mean your report, page 3. So you're saying at all times, city staff would either get a letter of opinion or an appraisal, and if not, how would that work exactly? So a piece of property, we'd advertise a piece of property and say, or the report would come forward, we want to sell X piece of property, and we're not going to get a letter of opinion or an appraisal. You'd say it at that time?
Yeah, I think the recommendation would be, and further, that council hereby waive the requirement for evaluation as prescribed in bylaw 212 dash whatever the bylaw number is. That staff would always have to get evaluation either by certified appraisal or letter of opinion unless council specifically used your veto power by resolution to not have evaluation happen on a particular piece of land.
Okay. The second one, you talk about notice to the public, and there's 5 methods you list here, but the report says you can use any one or more of those methods.
Yes.
And, one of them is just put it on the website, for instance. That's one of them. I have some concern with the notice provision. Who would determine what is proper notices, I guess? If there's 5 provisions, who says what are the appropriate ones?
In my mind, how this would work in practice 90% of the time is that staff would bring forward a report to council with a recommendation that for this particular piece of property, notice is recommended in these following manners. I am and have indicated on a couple of occasions that these are minimum standards that can always be exceeded by council. And certainly when a recommendation came forward from staff, council could decide if it was too much, not enough, or just right, the sort of Goldilocks method. But again, it was an attempt to meet the flexibility and accountability pendulum, and I'm happy to prescribe a particular method if that's council's wish. Certainly in our existing bylaw, we indicate that it has to be in a newspaper, but we don't indicate any other methods that council considers. So we were trying to make sure that our bylaw more accurately describes the number of ways that we are able to communicate with stakeholders.
So you're just saying it's flexibility, but anytime property X came forward, you would tell us what your methods of notice were, and council can then decide if that's not enough.
Certainly, even under our existing bylaw, in my tenure here, it's been the staff practice to identify for council how they recommend notices provided to the community, and I would suggest that that would be the best practice going forward.
Okay, and my last question, I believe, and it might be to Mr. May, methods of disposal in your reports. The range of methods to dispose of land have been expanded, including RFP process. And here's the line I'm concerned with. Also recommend that the bylaw to council consider using other methods not cataloged in the bylaw, so council can be responsive and take advantage of changing model. I'm not clear how we can have a method. I'm not clear on that whole statement. How can you have a bylaw that says this is how you dispose of it?
We'll invite Mr. May.
Catalog how you're going to dispose.
We're just trying to make the bylaws survive through changing times as well. So if we have not foreseen a change or something, as an example, is a request for expressions of interest different than a request for proposals? That's an example. So if it's just terminology that we're using, but it's still a request for proposals or a request for expressions of interest, the language sometimes changes slightly or something. And we're just trying to give council the ability that the bylaw itself will not
get in the way of something that makes sense 10 years from now or 5 years from now.
So how, I guess my question is, how does this bylaw say that? The only way you could do that is if you said, well, like, is there a catch-all phrase or something that says council can?
Right, we're saying alternate method declared by council by resolution. So as the clerk has explained, we would come to council with a process always leading into it. It's just sometimes an example would be we've gone through a sale of a property and one property is following at another meeting, but we have the benchmark, we have the opinion or the appraisal. So to do another appraisal just because we're following in another meeting sometimes would be a waste of taxpayers' dollars. So there's the example, and I think what's built into the bylaw, and also we're going from a bylaw to also a policy document as well, and partial bylaw, which is the way the new municipal act is structured. So again, I think trying to make more flexibility with partnerships or talking about things today. You have the train stations now, and you have the jail and the county building, and there may be something else coming forward with a partnership with the county or with other parties, and then how do you create a joint offering or something like that? So to be caught by terms is really then would cause you difficulty of having to do a bylaw amendment.
City manager wants to comment as well.
Where the province said a few years ago now, municipalities govern yourselves appropriately. This bylaw is trying to do that. And it's an interesting one for staff because I've spent more years than I want to admit to on camera with bureaucracy and having very staid rules. This is saying, provided, as the clerk said, you meet the fundamental principles of openness and transparency and trying to maximize the benefit to our ratepayers, you can do that process, whatever that process may be. And this is an example of a flexible bylaw that lets us be more nimble on our feet, but requires us to think about what's the most appropriate process.
Less prescriptive. Thank you. Councillor Mahan? Okay. Councillor Purdon?
Yes, I'm also on the search for an example because that just would help me. Going back to the valuation, what would be a situation where a valuation is not warranted?
Yes. We sometimes have been involved where we have hired appraisers to give us a benchmarking exercise, and on an annual basis we've had that benchmarking updated. So we know what the valuations are within what we're working with. And individually, or as I said, if we defer one item and then we come back at another meeting with another property and we've just done the identical property, to have to do an appraisal, appraisals are $5,000-$10,000, so you're spending additional funds when you have something that's very current. But we'd have to show council that the material you have from the previous sale is relevant and pertinent. So that would be the example. Or the circumstance around a lease would have something else with it, and you would have that knowledge to know that it is competitive.
Okay. Councillor Lemon?
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. One of the concerns I have in this process, if somebody out of the blue comes in and says, I want to buy the XYZ property, it's owned by the city, it is contaminated. With the process that you're evolving here, like we may have a piece of property that the retail value is $200,000, but the cleanup may be $250,000. And my concern is does this allow us the flexibility to say, well, actually, if you'll clean it up, here's the deed?
Absolutely, Councillor. Through you, Your Worship, the value of property is the market value less the cleanup cost in terms of what the net value is. And again, the brownfield aspects are you have to deal with risk and deal with managing risk as well. So you're absolutely right. The value includes all of those aspects to it.
But in that particular case, I'd be more interested in hearing from an environmental engineer than I would from a property, a realtor or somebody engaged.
Through you, Your Worship, I've been involved in a number of expropriation matters where the sites had some brownfield aspects, and the appraisers are required to look at the engineering first, the chemistry, and then from there establish the value.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
In addition to Mr. May, I'll draw your attention to the approval of council section, which does indicate that at all times council can vote the land on any terms of the but we want you to be responsible to clean it up. That could absolutely be a condition of an agreement of purchase and sale. And we've tried to maintain through all of this that we would adhere to our purchasing bylaw in terms of an RFP or a tender process or hiring an auctioneer or a realtor or anything else that would fall under the guise of that, except for the caveat that the purchasing bylaw would not dictate who the final purchaser of the property is, as that would always be retained by council.
Thank you. Go back to Councillor Purdon and then Councillor Body.
Well, I was just going to move the motion.
That's a motion then. Councillor Body.
Thank you, Your Worship. Question for Ms. Van Alphen, although I think she just answered. At the end of the day, every decision is going to come back to the council of the day. If they didn't like the value, if they didn't like the process, they have the option of reviewing it at that time, bumping it up as well as bumping it down, correct?
Just to be clear, I would put the shade on that if council dictated that property needed to be disposed through an auction, for instance, you wouldn't have the opportunity after that process had started to dictate who would purchase, because it would be whoever was successful at the auction. But aside from that, yes, any time that it was going through a process where there is an auction or a bid or a tender, it is to come back to council unless council directs staff to be responsible for it in some respect.
Basically, at the end of the day, council has the final decision. Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions, discussion? Thank you very much. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We are now at the next item on the agenda, and if I could ask Councillor Chamberlain to come up and take the chair. I have the pecuniary interest.
One before that, Grey Bruce Property Rentals.
No, I don't have a pecuniary interest there. Thank you.
12B3.
Thank you. 12B3. This is an encroachment agreement with regards to the Grey Bruce property rentals. Councillor McManaman?
Your Worship, I move the recommendation that we enter into such an agreement.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Now, I will ask Councillor Chamberlain to step up, please.
Oh, sorry.
Now looking at this item. Thank you. We have a motion on the floor from Councillor Wright. Move the motion.
Very much, Your Worship, your acting worship. I will, in the request, Haswell Matisse request for encroachment agreement, I would move the recommendation. I go by there many times and it's just a simple.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the group? Any discussion? I call the question. All in favor? I vote. Motion is carried.
Thanks very much. Councillor Chamberlain. The next item was actually pulled from the agenda, so we're on to minutes of boards and committees. What is council's? Oh, our notice of motion, right. We have a motion for which notice was previously given. And what is council's direction on this? Councillor Purdon.
I might need a bit of help. I think I want to move the motion.
We can do that. All those in favor? All those opposed? Councillor Twaddle, Councillor Lemon, that motion is carried. Thank you. We now have a series of minutes of boards and committees for approval. What's council's direction on those? Councillor Lemon.
Yes, I would move 12D1 and 2. I don't think we can go on to E. I think that requires a separate motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Minutes of the in-camera meetings. Councillor Twaddle?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We are at other business, and I'll invite Councillor Chamberlain. I believe you had some items of other business.
Do I stand for this one? No. Yes, I just wanted to commend the staff on the work that was done on the cleanup of the spill that happened in the Sydenham River. It was really at the help of one of our local residents that helped make it come forward to my attention. And it was very interesting that tonight we had a public meeting for the River Project Precinct, and a lot of the people that were very concerned about the spill in the river were also here to attend that meeting, and it was really well done. And that leads right into the Friends of Harrison Park, because they're going to have several of those people, because the Sydenham River comes through Harrison Park. They would like to carry on and form a committee called, more formally, called the Friends of Harrison Park, and be ambassadors to the park and go forward with some fundraising. So to that end, there is a meeting on Wednesday evening and in the Harrison Park at the Senior Center at 7 p.m. And several of the people coming forward today for the River Precinct will also become Friends of Harrison Park. It's a very good news story.
Great. Thank you very much. Those are both good news stories. Not so much the first, perhaps, but the awareness certainly was important. We have, Madam Clerk, you have a couple of items, a couple of bylaws, I believe.
Request from the Festival of Northern Lights that I'm just, sorry, I'll put the letter up first. There we are. Correspondence received from the Festival of Northern Lights for the direction of council. This was distributed earlier today. It has been brought forward before our next meeting on an urgent basis because the opening night will occur before council has an opportunity to consider it in open session again.
That time of the year already. Director of Community Services.
Thank you, Your Worship. My apologies for the late nature of the request. It certainly reflects the transition that we're working on with the festival. It would be my recommendation that Council pass a motion that would say that in consideration of the request from Festival of Northern Lights, Inc., that City Council approves the discharge of fireworks for festival opening celebration plan for November 16th in accordance with Bylaw 2008-060, subject to inspection and approval by Owen Sound Fire Services. So it's a little different than what you have.
Any discussion? Councillor Body.
I'm just going to move the recommendation as read.
Discussion? Councillor McManaman.
Just a question of clarification. There's a new fireworks bylaw that we certainly discussed at committee. Has that not been approved yet?
Final fine-tuning and coming back to the committee to be forwarded then to council.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. With regards to the Festival of Northern Lights, through to you, Director of Community Services, I've had a call today from a family who has a distant relative who died on the Jervis Bay, and as a result of that, they are very concerned that fencing has gone up around Jervis Bay Park prior to Remembrance Day, and are requesting that perhaps consideration could be put in that the fencing either be removed or partially set back until after Remembrance Day, as it is a memorial park as well.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, I think that reflects sort of the new day. We'll pass that message along. I'm certain that they'll be happy to remove it.
Thank you. Any other items? Seeing none? Motion the committee rise? Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion's carried. Resolution adopting proceedings in committee of the whole, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Adair, that action taken committee of the whole in considering public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business be hereby confirmed by this council.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Any notices of motion? Bylaws.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Adair, that bylaws number 2012, 191, 192, 193, 194, 195, 196, and 197 be hereby passed and enacted.
Thank you. All those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. We're adjourned.